welcome to Machine Shop Tech Talk, or welcome back to Machine Shop Tech Talk if this is not your first time here. If it is your first time here, don't forget to click like, don't forget to click subscribe so you keep up to date. On Machine Shop Tech Talk, we go over the problems that come up in manufacturing, because it's not a matter of if, it's when they come up, and you need to have solutions. To that effect, I'm talking with Mike Payne today from Hill Manufacturing Company. Now, he is an owner. He's not a shop floor guy, but he has a really brilliant mindset when it comes to how to get your business to grow. And we're going to get into it today. Mike, I'm so glad you're here, dude. I know we had a little bit of a preamble. I'm excited for the people out there to hear about it. But really quick, for those that may not be as familiar with you as I am, can you give us like that 60-second snapshot of
Sure
who
enough.
you are?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I know we've been talking about this for months, so I'm glad we finally made it happen. Looking forward to getting you over on my show as well. Yeah, so Mike Payne, Hill Manufacturing. Actually, so Hill's our main shop. We actually have 5 shops in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. I came in kind of through the back door into manufacturing. I started my career in software, manufacturing software. Spent about 15 years in private equity, and then bought Hill Manufacturing and then 4 shops since that time. And so my background is like you said, I'm not a shop floor guy that has gotten to shop ownership. I'm really more of a business management, operational management, finance guy that got here. But I have absolutely fallen head over heels in love with the industry. I guess that's fitting since today's Valentine's Day. I love it. I think it's such an amazing industry that can just change lives and create so much opportunity for people. I'm all in.
There's nothing, especially nothing that we're using right now while we record, that has not been touched by manufacturing. Truth. What's the expression? If it's not grown or born, it's made somehow.
Our good buddy, Paul Van Meter, and I know Tony Gunn. The Thank a Machinist hashtag. I think that's so underrated. It touches every part of our everyday lives.
So I know we were talking before about kind of your mindset, and it's very different. I've talked to hundreds of shop owners, and usually I've got to do a lot of convincing on where it makes sense, as the machinist who saw the changes happening on the shop floor when the money went to the right places. So you started with Hill Manufacturing. You've now bought 4 other companies, so you've got 5 in total. Clearly you've found a way to make these businesses profitable. Otherwise, you're a smart man. You wouldn't keep pouring money down the drain. So what have you found that makes a difference to when it comes to running machine shops?
I don't know. It's that's a good question. I think there's a couple things. One, I mean, it's a crucial industry to our economy and everything else in our lives, right? So we touched on that. It impacts lives. It changes lives. It changes communities and economies. There is a grander purpose there that feels good to be involved in. But yeah, I mean, I am a capitalist, and as you said, if it wasn't making money, I wouldn't keep putting money into it. There's in my viewpoint, there's we're at a point in the world where, well, we touched on it. I kind of came in the back door, right? Like most of this industry grew up on the shop floor. Eventually, they wanted to have their own shop. They bought a machine. Maybe it was in their garage. Maybe it was in an industrial park, whatever. Got another machine, hired an employee. And they've grown and done some really amazing, cool things. And we're hitting a point where there's a massive, what do they call it, the silver tsunami, right? Of baby boomers retiring, and it just breaks my heart seeing how many of these shops are going to just lock their door and auction their equipment. When there's this also at the same time, I think we're really at this inflection point in the industry. At the same time, through the work of so many valuable people in this industry, energizing, kind of that next generation. And, I think I read recently that like 60 to 70% of machinists just focus right there on machinists, ignore like the bigger picture of trades, want to own their own shop. And, there's ample opportunity in these shops that are retiring to partner those with, the youth, the energy, the brilliant minds that's coming up in the industry. Where there's a gap is access to capital to do that, right? So that younger generation doesn't necessarily have the money to go buy out the older generation. just right out of the gate. It's hard to get bank financing and so forth if you haven't proven yourself before. So there's a bridge in this access to financing capital to make that happen. I hope that I can help bridge that gap. I mean, when I'm buying these companies, and like we said, I bought one, I've bought four more. I'll probably buy a couple more this year. I mean, I don't intend to slow down, but I can't run all those individually,
Yeah.
right? So part of the reasons for my growth is to create opportunities for other people, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are willing to invest and help bridge that gap. And I think it's an important thing. We want to make money doing it, but I do think it's important for us as for our communities, for everything, to bridge that gap and make that happen.
It's the same thing that keeps me moving, right? We're working in different areas, but it creates our economies. It adds to the national, like what did they call it, the gross domestic product,
Right.
the GDP, right? I tell everyone I'm on this mission to double the GDP that manufacturing represents. I don't know if we can hit it, because that would be an astronomical number, but man, that's the game I'm playing, because the awareness now what makes it different. A lot of people have that mindset where, oh, manufacturing's leaving. Obviously, you don't see that. You're on this mission to empower more of the next generation to step into machining specifically, or the trades, manufacturing as a whole. But yeah, it moves entire communities. That's what makes the money go around, when we have a really robust set of tradespeople in manufacturing.
Yeah, and Arthur, I wish I had the statistics in front of me, but just to put that in a frame of reference, and I'm going to say something that I hope people don't hear as political, but there's a lot of talk in the community right now, in the world, about make America great again, right? Like, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna use that phrase not in a political sense, but I want to talk about the ideology that comes from behind that is, like, back when America was self-sufficient and doing all these great things, and the American dream was achievable for everybody. So I read an article recently, and I really wish I had the statistics in front of me, but in that ideal time frame that we're trying to build this picture around make America great again. It was something like I want to say 56% of the jobs in the United States were in manufacturing. Today it's like
something like that.
Today it's less than 15. Right? So
yeah.
And again, not trying to be political. That's not my intent. That's not why I'm bringing it up at all. No. But what I'm saying though is there was a time when America was, we were self-sufficient. We made everything for ourselves. We were, that there's national security issues around that. There's all sorts of issues that come up when you talk about that. And, we have maybe a third of the jobs in that space that we had even 30, 40 years ago. And longer for sure. We got to get back to that, in my opinion.
Well, back to that, because that's all going to go to the GDP side as well. The more people working in the industry, the more money the industry generates. There is a point, and I don't have the statistics either on it, but someone was also saying that it's a proportional representation of that generation itself. So, like, the baby boomer generation was a much larger generation. So there was more people that were in it, and now we're past the halfway mark of the silver tsunami. So the proportional representation of the population decreases, but it actually follows the mean employment age as it goes through. But I haven't seen those numbers. I want more people in manufacturing. That's
I do too.
I
think I think there's also a realization that we all have to face, and that I'm sure we've seen all the same numbers, and they vary greatly. But when you look at they call it the skills gap, right? Like we're 6 million. We're gonna have 6 million jobs unfilled in 10 years, or 10 million jobs, or whatever the number is. It's big, right? Like, and I don't think anybody's going to deny that whatever that number is probably accurate. So I think my good friend Al Wutmo from Toolpath, like, he redefined that skills gap for me, and I loved his perspective on it, which was it's a productivity gap, right? Like, it's not that we lack the skills,
Yeah.
we lack the productivity. So I think what we're seeing, I think we're in a time period in this industry too where, with advancements in technology, we've got, bigger, better, faster machines. We've got bigger, better, faster, you know, ERP systems and processes and all these things that, AI, the emergence of AI, whether that's in your front office or on the shop floor, it doesn't matter. We between a combination of bringing people into the industry and increasing productivity through investments in technology, not necessarily new machines, but just technology in general, we can close the productivity gap with the understanding that we're not going to probably close the actual number of people gap to the degree that it's growing.
It's a good point when we're talking technology, because manufacturing is one of the industries that's always behind the bell curve by
Sure.
a large amount when it comes to adoption of new technology. This goes all the way back to, I spent a lot of time in distributor sales, and then before that I was a machinist, right? Everyone's willing to try a new insert for their lathe. They're willing to try a new end mill in their mills. They're willing to try things they already know how to tweak because they're comfortable with that. But when you start talking about work holding, you start talking about tool holding, you start talking about, probes and automation in their machine setup processes and height setters and balancers and all the technological points that would take their existing machines and make them,
Wildly more productive.
in a lot of cases, you can see them. Well, yeah, from 30% utilization. Everyone's like, oh, it's 50%. No,
Sure.
it's probably more like 30%. But you can get it up towards that 80 to 100%. You'll hit 95 probably. I've even seen a local guy here. He has 8 machines. He's a one-man shop. And he's at 70% utilization because every single purchase he makes is automation focused. And he's a one-man shop. He does all the programming, the sales, the quoting, the deburring, the packaging,
Yep.
all of it. And he's got 8 machine tools he keeps running 70% of the time
Yeah,
alone.
well, think about what that does, what you just said. Like, so I agree with you 100%. And I think if you talk to
Yeah.
all the companies that are out there in machine monitoring, I think they would agree. 30% is probably pretty realistic. Most people think they're running 60 to 70. They're not. We have machine monitoring in our shop. It was, I felt like I was coming into that realistic, and then once I started seeing the numbers, it was the same thing. It was like, man, we're barely half as productive as I thought we were. But think about what you just said. So if you can take, let's say you're running 30%, and you could even just boost it to 60 through all these things we're talking about: better tooling, better work holding, automation, all those types of things. Well, you just cut the number of people you need in half, right? So if there's some big scary number of we're going to have 10 million people shortage in 10 years, if everybody got twice as productive, we'd be at 5 million people we need. That's not as scary.
Well, no, and it closes the productivity gap. And I don't have numbers for this stuff. I never look up numbers normally for the podcast, but there's a global productivity index per employee per country, and North America is at the bottom of the charts. Canada and US, we're really close on the charts. We're like really close together, and I believe we're both sitting at the bottom of the charts. The productivity calculated per human in the country, or however, there's a special scientific, proper economic way to describe that. But yeah, it's like,
but I mean.
So stuff like this.
You're talking about. I mean, so here's how I look at it. Here's some of the things I've done.
Okay.
That, so I've got 39 machines. So I've got machines that are a couple years old. I have machines that I have 2 machines that are probably 30 years old, pushing 30. Man, probably not quite, but 25 years old. They all make good parts.
Yeah.
The first machine tending robot I put in my facility was on a 15-year-old machine. Took a little bit more integration to get that thing talking than a 2-year-old machine with a robot interface. I didn't need to go out and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on machine and automation and work holding and tooling, and I was able to spend maybe $100,000, right, to automate that machine.
Mm-hmm.
And that machine now, where you used to run probably at somewhere in the neighborhood of a 30% efficiency. is now running lights out. So I took it from 30 to probably 90. Well, that was 3 people,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's and I can say the same. So the Hill Manufacturing, when I bought it, is 41 years old when I bought it. The owner had been wanting to sell for probably, seriously for 3 or 4 years. Had been thinking about it for 6 to 7. So when owners go through that shift in their mindset, they just naturally quit reinvesting, right? I mean, they pull more money out. They, if they're reinvesting, it's because of hard times, not because of like, oh, let's do this newest, greatest, latest thing. So there had been, let's say, a good 5 or 6 years that no one was looking at how do we improve work holding, how do we improve tooling. There's an insert with this new coating that'll crank through Inconel at twice the speed of cut and depth of cut, and right, like no one was looking at that.
Yeah.
They were just doing the same thing as we did last time, right? So, I mean, that first year that I owned Hill, I mean, really the first couple of years was all about just reinvesting in what we already do, right? Like, we didn't necessarily go out and try to get new work. We tried to improve the work we had.
That's such a smart way to look at it, though, to get more profitable on what
Yeah,
you're already
and
doing.
I mean, I'll tell you, we went from, I mean, I would say we increased, I mean, I have to go back and look specifically, but, we increased margins by 20-25% in the first year. Just by,
Wow.
it was,
That's
it was
amazing
massive.
results.
But, and we
Yeah.
still use traditional Kurt Vices today, but at the time, that's all we used. But now, we've focused on our work holding.
Yeah.
We've invested in tombstones for our horizontals. We've, and then same way with tooling, you look at a job that was on matter of fact, one of the best examples I can give you early on, it was where I really learned how much tooling can make a difference. There was a job that we run, if I remember correctly, I want to say it was a 72-minute cycle time just punching a bunch of holes in a flange, right? They were like 1-inch holes. There was like 30 of them around this large flange, and we bought a new insert drill versus whatever we were using before, and the cycle time went down to 15 minutes.
It was probably high-speed steel,
Yeah.
like pecking slowly.
And now
through,
we're just,
you're
boom,
just punching through.
Yeah, hole done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember sitting here the night. So we were running that job. We had to buy this $800 drill that I'm like, wow, that's expensive for a drill, right? But if it works, it works. And so the shift was over. I took my main programmer guy that had said, hey, I think this would improve it. We go out there on the floor. He changes the whole setup, not changes the whole setup, but around that tool, right? Changes the program to address that tool instead. And we run that first part, and it's done in 15 minutes. And we run hundreds of those parts a year. So, I mean, just think about that productivity difference, right? An $800 drill saved me, let's just say it was 30 minutes apart, because I don't remember the exact. But, in our world, I roughly say a minute is $1, right? That's $60 an hour. So, saving me $30 a part on hundreds of parts a year, that's well worth an $800 drill. You can justify that all day long. So from that instant, then we said, okay, where else can we do that? Right? Like, what other jobs can we do that on? And you just started getting to work, and then it was like, okay, well, now how do we improve the time that door's open? Well, now we got to improve our work holding, right?
Yeah.
So really really boosted our efficiency just in tooling and work holding on the machines we already had. It didn't cost $400,000.
And you got to see the returns on that.
It cost $4,000 for some new work holding and tooling for a job. That's my approach.
And it makes sense why you saw the returns, and you're like, okay, well, I can just keep buying machine shops. It's, I've been in the industry 23 years, and it's a very similar story at most shops. When you're talking about the owners, that are getting up there, maybe they're not even ready to sell, but they know they're going to be ready to sell in a couple years. So they're holding on to their money. If an emergency happens, a catastrophic failure, okay, I will remedy that. But otherwise, I don't want to change anything. I just want to kind of
Yep.
coast until
No,
I'm out of
it's
here.
happening every day all
So
across the country.
that's a great place to wrap up. I mean, because you're sharing about just the discovery of the return on investment for tooling and for work holding and the difference about maximizing what you already have, Mike. So with all of that said, is there, if there's someone out there, well, now this could be either to machinists that, like you were talking about at the beginning of the episode, that are keen on leading but they don't have the finances, or maybe there's someone in your previous world of the business world, that, you know, the investment side of things, and they are watching, they've been considering manufacturing. Do you have any words of wisdom?
Yeah,
for
dig
them?
in, just do it. I mean, like it can change your life. The it is the best industry in the world. It's the hardest industry in the world, but it's also the most fun. The community is amazing. You know, I mean, people like you. I mean, the people I've met in this industry,
Yeah.
you know, they're so supportive. I mean, there's so many of us out here that it just, we want to share what we've learned. Half the stuff I just said could be wrong for somebody listening, but it's right for some people that are listening, right? So, and there's so many of us out here that, like, we want to help you improve. The community is massive. I've never been in an industry that is so willing to help each other. I mean, I've got competitors across the street from me, you know, and when I say competitors, I mean they do what I do. But I mean, we share
Yeah.
tools, we share, you know, thread gauges, we help each other. If I can't make a part, I maybe have them make the part. Or I mean, I've touched nearly every industry you could name in my private equity days, and I've never been in an industry so willing to help each other. So just dig in, ask for help. Like, there's so many
Really?
resources. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many great podcasts and just content that's out there to learn the industry. Just dig in, go. There's nothing stopping you.
I can't disagree with anything you've said, Mike. I have a bias, so I love hearing that you've seen all these other industries and you still feel this way. I've been in manufacturing my entire career,
Yeah.
so it's nice to hear it from someone with your experience and your wisdom in all the different verticals. So, with that being said, Mike, I'm so glad that we took the opportunity to just hit record
Yep.
today and to get her done. Thank you so much for being on, and to anyone that's still here, look, you sat here, you just listened to Mike and I go on for like near on 20 minutes. You liked the show. Don't forget to click subscribe. Don't forget to click like. Send it to somebody, because if you stayed this long, you found it valuable, and someone else will too. To all my machining friends out there, keep your spindles turning and earning.